And we're live. Again. That was a bit of a disaster, that one, wasn't it, that performance, unfortunately.
It wasn't a disaster. It was just, unfortunately, the pesky internet issues.
Yeah, sorry for all those that were watching the third episode.
Apparently it's been like that all day. Our daughter said on her laptop it was the same.
Well, these are the gremlins. These are the things that we can't control at all. But it's frustrating because I was really... Well, you know, I've loved every single episode, loved every single performance I've done, but I was really looking forward to just, you know, playing those particular tunes. But anyway, I did play them, and some people watched on Instagram. Strangely didn't affect Instagram. Don't know what that's about. Different server, I guess, that sort of thing. But anyway, so apologies for the technical issues, but out of our hands. Okay, shoot.
Okay, so here are some questions you didn't get to answer during the live. Jeffrey Guitar asks, when you moved away from making your own music after Ignorance is Bliss, did you miss it, and did you always know that you would go back? Very glad that you did, by the way.
Yes, I did miss it enormously, but I didn't stop writing songs, although it did slow down. Yeah, it was a kind of tail between the legs thing, really. We went up to Scarborough, didn't we? We lived in Surrey for a while, and then when I got ill on the tour, I got better whilst we were living in Surrey and had to convalesce there, really. But really the effects of getting pneumonia and the effects of the failure of the record and the effects of Little Angels it's just too much to take, really, at the time. And so going back up to Scarborough, you know, give me a bit of breathing space, really. And I did write a lot of songs. Carried on working with Roger Davis. So yeah, I did carry on, but I did miss the process of playing, and it took a long while to get back on the road and do gigs. So yeah.
Question from 7517ST. 7517 Stone. I don't know. I think it must be an Instagram handle. Did any of the Little Angels albums go silver or gold?
Yes, they did. I believe all of the albums went now are at least silver. We went silver in the first few days of the Jam album. Then it went gold, but I never received a gold disc, even though I was entitled to one. We made approaches, didn't we, to the BFI and through Universal to kind of get one, but they wouldn't let us have it. And I believe that surpassed those sales as well. You know, the Little Angels records did very, very well. You know,
you have got a silver disc of
I've
Jam.
I've got a silver disc of Jam. Yeah, we never got. You know, we'll never get the discs now because it has to be issued by the record label. They instigate it. They cost quite a bit of money and all the rest of it. So, yeah, last time I saw the figures, all of the records had gone at least silver, and the Jam album had gone way, way, way beyond that.
Silly question from Keith. Spaghetti hoops or beans on toast?
Oh, beans. No competition.
Okay, Wayne Page asks, sorry for the long question, but when your solo career began back in the mid-90s, in my opinion, rock music had become very unpopular.
Yeah.
Firstly with the grunge rock Seattle bands, and then the UK got swept away with the Britpop by the mid-90s,
yeah,
which meant loads of rock bands from the 80s and 90s became unfashionable. When starting your solo career, were you conscious of the music scene, and did it alter your style of songwriting or the types of songs you wanted to write as a solo artist? Looking back, I can't but help think it must have been a tough time for you to start a solo career.
Yeah, it was. All of those things are completely relevant, but as a songwriter, I would challenge any songwriter that tried to move with the times. It just doesn't work like that. It's the creative arts are something that comes from your soul, that come from a need. There are writers out there, and I've worked with writers like this that set out with an express intention of creating a certain something, and they listen to what's going on in the zeitgeist, you know, and try and capture something that's relevant at the time. But I think that's folly. I don't think the greatest writers in the world ever considered those things. They just wrote their songs, and I've always followed that trail. Now, more fool me, some would say, but my heart feels good about that, even though my pocket probably doesn't. but I can't say it ever really affected me. I mean, the only thing I would say is when I made the Refresh album, because of the people I was involved with, and because of the way that the radio was working at the time, I suppose I did lean a little bit more on a slightly more indie sound. But that was more of a sonic thing. It wasn't anything to do with the writing. So no, I've tried to remain as unaffected by fashion as I possibly can, for all the right reasons.
Mervyn Stevenson, which song pulls at your heartstrings of your own and another artist?
Oh God, how long you got? Well, I think Womankind, because I wrote it for this lady here, and I love Forgiveness, and I love Four Letter Word, one of my solo songs. It always makes me feel very emotional, because that song's sort of like, questioning the validity of people saying I love you, but wrapped up in a kind of relationship story. But it's about the essence of what does that word mean, and how we think about it, and how it affects us and stuff like that, and how people can easily break the bond of that, without a second thought, So those things are very emotional. Yeah, Don't Pray For Me is very emotional for me because it was the first real breakthrough song that I wrote, that I knew that I could write songs. Came out of nowhere, sort of thing. So yeah, those three, I'd say. And what was the other part of the question? Oh, somebody else's song. I think a vast majority of the ballady things from Queen really get me. I love Take My Breath Away. I love Somebody to Love. That always gets a lump in my throat. I love a lot of the John Lennon ballady stuff, I really do. I think Imagine is an incredible song, one of the greatest songs ever written, and that always brings me to a point of tears, And I think Yesterday by the Beatles is an incredible piece of writing, and that always makes me feel very emotional. So there's lots. I do get very affected by those sort of things.
Cy Milner asks, was the change of image during this period of your career an intentional one or an accidental one?
Oh no, it was totally intentional. I wanted to eradicate the concept of me being in the Little Angels. I was so upset by the whole process of us breaking up that I cut my hair off. We went over to Florida, didn't we? And we were on a holiday before I went up to mix the Iggy Bliss record, and I had all my hair cut off, and I started wearing flannel shirts and all that. Not that I wanted to be in the grunge scene, but I just didn't want to be the same, And I've been useless at style. I'm absolutely useless at it. Terrible. I've never really got it, I'm a jeans and t-shirt guy, And so the moment I try to move into anything else, it just looks like I'm a coat hanger. It doesn't look like a human being wearing clothes. I don't quite know what it is. I don't have a great sense of style, really. So I tend to stick to the things that I like now rather than try to try things out just for the sake of it.
Pete Evans asks, which band, current or past, would you love to hear covering one of your songs? I think we've had a similar one before.
Very good, very good. I'd love to hear the Struts do something like, I don't know, Unwind, or, because I think Unwind's one of those songs that anyone could cover, actually. I don't know. That's a really tough question to answer. I mean, Queen would be amazing, wouldn't it? I don't know. It's but they wouldn't need a lowly songwriter like me. They had their own brilliant songwriter, didn't they? Songwriters, in fact. That's a hard question to answer.
Di White asks,
Hi, Di.
I know we cannot travel far at the moment, but I just wondered if you have a bucket list of places you'd love to visit one day, and if you have a favourite place that you have visited.
Well, now the children are grown up, and they're not so dependent on us. I think once Evie, because she's our youngest, she's 17. Once she actually gets to the point where she's got, university or a job, or whatever she's going to do, and all the other girls are sorting, they're doing their things and they're pursuing their lives, I think we're going to try.
We're out of here.
Yeah. Well, we just want to try and do a bit of travelling, don't we? And get back to that sort of two people thing, and jump in the car, and I much prefer. I've got to say, I much prefer driving and doing that kind of travel myself. I mean, we didn't do a lot of driving holidays with the kids in Europe because we did a couple, didn't we? But they were always more problematic because it was like long time in a car with little children. All that it's very difficult. But we've always done flying holidays, haven't we? But I would prefer to get back to sort of more of a driving thing, going across on the ferry, driving, through Europe. I much prefer Europe than the Americas. I've spent a lot of time in America, but it's not my favourite place. I like lots of it, but it's not somewhere I would particularly like to go back to in a hurry. Although I think the north and the eastern part of America, Maine and Vermont and places like that, I absolutely love it up there. So I'd love to go back and have a look at that properly. I'd love to go to Canada with Ket and go to Vancouver and travel across Canada.
Vancouver's definitely on the bucket list.
I've worked in Vancouver quite a bit, so I know the city very well.
Never been, so.
It's a lovely, lovely place. I love Vancouver. But I think my absolute favourite places actually are more in Central Europe. I love Munich. I love Germany in general. I think Germany's a wonderful place. I love Munich specifically as a city. I love Austria and I love Vienna. We went to Vienna a couple of years ago, didn't we? And it was absolutely fantastic. I loved it there. I love it there. So there's something about the European sensibility from that period, which really, really appeals to me. But there's so many places I haven't been. I'd like to spend a bit more time in Italy. I'd love to go to Corsica. We talked about that, haven't we?
Sardinia.
And Sardinia.
But I'd like to go to East Asia as well.
See, I'm not
to
bothered.
go to Singapore.
See, I'm not bothered about any of that. But
Bali, Thailand.
you like the sun, and I'm not bothered.
Malaysia, Borneo. I want to see the orangutans.
I would love to go to Vietnam. I've heard a lot
Vietnam.
of great things about Vietnam. People who visited it. So there's still lots of places to go.
Grayson Jones, do you and the girls watch Eurovision? And would you ever be part of it?
We watch it for a laugh. I don't know. I mean, Eurovision's so old hat now, isn't it? And it's now become something beyond. I mean, I don't know how Australia managed to worm their way in there, but I think it's a bit odd to me. But anyway, no, not really. I mean, funny enough, several years ago, there was a kind of possibility I could have written a song for the Eurovision through my old manager, but it never really came to anything. And I'm not that kind of writer, that's all very stock writing. That's professional songwriters who sit in front of keyboards and listen to other people's records and nick chord progressions and things like that, and I just don't do that.
Dave Pritchard, some bands have been able to reconvene in the studio, socially distanced. Do you foresee a time soon when that might happen for the Wayward Sons?
Well, we don't really need to, because we've already got the backing tracks for about 13, 14 songs that we recorded at the same time we made the Truth album. Because I recorded, and a lot of it's really, really good. Well, most of it is very, very good. So we can do it remotely, so we don't need to be. We cut the basics as live takes already with the drums and bass and a lot of the guitars. So that's actually, it's a gift, because a lot of bands can't do that, and won't have that process. So we're very, very lucky. I feel pleased that I took that decision to record more than I could possibly need, and it's going to give us a third album.
Mark Gradwell says, you seem to have walked away from music for a chunk of time, a couple of times. Even once, almost retiring altogether.
Yeah.
That's what he seems to remember reading. So what drove you away and what pulled you back?
What drove me away was the total and utter frustration about not being able to recreate a career as a musician, and that was mainly all my own fault. I was very naive about it, because you've got to remember, with the Little Angels, we had management, agents, promoters, organisation, accountants, but they were all people that had massive experience, and they guided us, and we took it for granted. I took it for granted. So, I would get a phone call from someone saying, you've got to be so-and-so there on Friday, just turn, and we used to turn up, and then things would happen, When I actually took on the reins myself and decided, no, I'm going to do it all myself, and I'm just going to look after it myself, and I formed the company and all the rest of it, and we did the Refresh EP, it was creatively very successful, but in terms of a business, it was a financial disaster, because it's just an absolute bottomless pit when you do it yourself a lot of the time. And so it was a massive lesson learned. So that first time, after the Refresh EP period, it was just like, well, I can't carry on doing this, it's impossible. So that was the reason why that happened. and then the second time was really, again, a very similar situation. Kind of got to the point where it was just like, well, what else can I do? Where else can I go with this? You know, and really that was just before. And I put out the Twisted Rhapsodies album, which was really a culmination of everything I had left. And that to me was, I was done now. That's it, I'm going to put that out and that's it. I'm not going to do it anymore. But the trouble is, you can't get rid of the feeling. You can't get rid of the needs and the desires. And weirdly, when I did that, I started getting offered stuff. I got offered a tour with Thunder. If you remember, we put that. I'm actually going to do that. And then all of a sudden, you sort of back in, you start talking to people. You think, oh, maybe I will have another go, but I'll keep it under control and all that sort of stuff. And then Steve Strange came knocking in 2007 and changed everything. All of a sudden, I'm back in with some very supportive, very important people, and they recognised me as an artist. And I can't tell you what a shot in the arm that was when someone like Steve Strange goes, I think you're great, and I really want to help you, and I want to be your manager, and I want to help out. And he has done, and he's never gone away, and he's one of the most amazing people I've ever met and worked with. It's hard not to, it's hard not to sort of feel pleased about that, and and use it,
Mark Gradwell asks, most of your solo work seems to have been EPs. So Ignorance is Bliss is your only official solo album.
Yeah.
So what about Twisted Rhapsodies? Because you just mentioned that.
Yeah.
His version has a second CD of live tracks from your career.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Twisted Rhapsodies, like I said, was basically, I sat down when I was thinking about leaving the business. I sat down and looked at all of the cassettes I had and all the DAT tapes, which is what we used to master things onto at that point. Looked at everything that I had and thought, well, I've got all these songs that I haven't used here. There's all these demos here I haven't used. That's some extra tracks from that, and that's some extra tracks from this. Let's put them all together in an album. And then also, I'd recorded, actually, that live take, the live CD was from Nottingham Rock City Basement on the Refresh period touring, and we recorded that show onto ADAT, and then we had it mixed. So I just thought, well, I'll put that out as well because it's got something to offer. So it was just a way of clearing house, really. So it wasn't really an official album. I didn't set out to record it that way. But the good news is that for anyone who's interested, is that I am going to make a second solo record. Probably I've already started on it now. And it will be my second official solo record. And I am going to go under the moniker of Toby and the Whole Truth again for that second record.
This is the last one. Drew B asks, do our wonderful world leaders at the time we are going through at the moment give you lots of song lyrics and ideas?
I wrote an entire album about those idiots, which the truth ain't what it used to be. I've made no mystery about that at all. I think personally that I've never known a time like it in my lifetime. The depth of stupidity, the lack of vision, the lack of humanity, the lack of sympathy, the lack of empathy, the greed, the focus on money and power rather than people is tantamount to criminal activity as far as I'm concerned. Though the leaders of the world, and there are only a few that I think have got anything worth talking about, frankly, they work for us. This is what we make the mistake of. We vote these people in to do our bidding. They are not omnipresent, if you know what I mean. They don't have the ultimate control. They should be working for the people. They should be devising answers to the serious problems that face us all and not have a personal take on it. And it shouldn't be driven, in my opinion, shouldn't be driven by party politics anyway. I think we need massive change. We need it to be done for the general population so we all benefit. And none of these people are doing that. It is all driven by personal agendas and power grabbing and stupidity, as far as I can gather. And I don't think no one will ever convince me otherwise. So yes, I'm deeply affected by it. It goes into my music every single time, and I hope change will come soon.
Okay, so hopefully we didn't get to answer all the questions because unfortunately some do get lost on the feed. So if there's anything you really, really want answering, then do send it, maybe a private message to you. Or
Yeah. And like
try and answer it next time.
Just to follow up on what I said on the live feed, I'm changing the process a little bit. We found that the numbers are dropping in terms of people watching, which is absolutely totally obvious that the people are going back to work and all the rest of it. But also, I just feel that we need to make it a bit more special. So I think the initial idea of doing the six episodes probably was a little too ambitious. So we're going, obviously next week's going to be the final one of this kind of style, where I'll talk about Ignorance is Bliss, and I want it to be about more conversation, talk about the end of the Little Angels into Ignorance is Bliss, and I'll play a few tunes as well, but that'll be the end of that. And then I'm going to do once a month performances, but I will do some live debates and conversations about certain topics in between. So I'm not going away completely from the live thing, obviously not, I love it. It's just moving with the situation that we're in at the moment, so I hope that's acceptable.
And what people don't know is how much you've got going on.
Yeah,
like there's so much going on behind the scenes. You're literally so busy, aren't you?
Yeah, well, Patreon's a big thing. Patreon's become a really, it's a full-time job, and I want to make that really work, and I'd like more people to join that if possible, and we want to make that a really great experience, and it does take up every single minute of the day, and I've got lots of other things going on as well, all to do with, developing things. I've got, like I say, the solo record, I've got the Wayward Sons album to finish. I'm writing a screenplay for a TV series and another film, and there's all sorts of stuff. I've got my autobiography, which I'm trying to get through at the moment, and Patreon obviously is the focus, but I do recognise the fact that I need to do things for everyone, and I want to do things live, for totally for free. I love doing it, but it's just finding the balance and making it work. I think in the lockdown period, because everyone was at home and everyone was focused on that, then it worked really, really well. But I think it just feels like it's run its course with the process that we've been going through. So, like everything else, change is good. We find a way of making it work. And but yes, I'll still be around all the time. You'll probably get absolutely sick of me. You probably are already. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching this, and see you next time.
Bye.